Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers Podcast. This week, I'm joined by a bit of an AI music beast, and they've taken the scene by storm recently. They have literally just raised a huge $250 million Series C at a $2.5 billion valuation. So a mix between AI and music. We're going to get into the product and what they're building. Today, we're joined by Ryder. Ryder is staff engineer and manager for their core infra team and global services. And he's here to talk about what they're building and how they're building it. Ryder, thanks for coming to join us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Excited to be here. And thanks for the
Love
intro.
it. Yeah, pleasure. Pleasure. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. We always start with the guest. We always start with the background. Give us a bit of background, couple of minutes on you, where you come from an engineering perspective.
Cool. Um, I mean, let me introduce Suno first. I think because you did a lot of Suno introduction, and that's very exciting to hear as always. Suno is a music company that we try to rethink how music is created, edited, and consumed. In short, one example is we let everyone create original music freely using natural language um, to be able to explore their imagination. You can come to Suno, type a prompt, a style, or a theme, and in less than 20 seconds, you will be able to hear the music that's originated and curated just for you. But it's more than that. We also think Suno as a music editing tool and an iteration tool. Once something is generated, user can redefine it, tweak it. You can make a cover. You can infill a part of it, and you can extend it. On top of that, we really look at Suno as a listening platform. People just don't just come here, trade, and leave. We have a very strong community that really enjoys Suno music, and they like to explore the music side of it, but also the video side of it. One example of that is we launched the Suno Hooks a couple months ago, which is our short form video product. Allows you to use Suno music as a background and create short form video. I guess all of that. The reason I joined Suno was purely because of my love for music since I was a kid. I grew up not have much luxury to learn a music instrument. But I've always been a big fan of music, especially classic music. And recently, I hear a lot of country. And my engineering background is about platform infrastructure building and cloud platform hosting. And I thought I can help Suno scale, basically. If I join Suno, I can really contribute on their logging, observability, platform scaling, all these kind of things to make sure that our users has a really good experience.
Love that. That is a good intro. That is a good intro. Take us a bit more into you. So, love for engineering, logging, observability. Just give us a bit of a backdrop into some of your previous roles, trajectory, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I started my career after graduating college. I started make my career at Bloomberg as a software engineer. At there, I joined Bloomberg middleware team, where we design a RPC system that serves that Bloomberg internal services that powers the Bloomberg terminal. Our customer is more than 500 teams inside Bloomberg and maybe thousands of services. And I really love the hosting part of it. I love the fact that other developer in the company are essentially my customer. Um, Also, people that actually uses the product is also my customer. So it's a tricky balance between serve different customer segments needs and also enhance the infrastructure and platform availability, resilience, and robustity. Um, I think the best infrastructure is invisible. So it's always nice to get some kudos and props when you solve an incident or service goes down and you fix it. But to me, the best infrastructure team has the minimum visibility on Slack or your communication channel, because that means your product engineer has a peace of mind when they try to develop their own software. Because ultimately, as a consumer app company, which is what Suno is, we don't want to just build infra for infra. Ultimately, we want to build better musical product. We want to make sure the customer has a good experience. And infrastructure is a part of it, and it's a means to an end, in my opinion. So I really focus on the developer experience part and the scalability part of it. And we needs observability to achieve that. So
Love that. We've spoken quite a lot about scaling globally in an AI era. We've spoken about some topics that we're going to talk about today. You and I have spoken offline about our different thoughts, opinions on who's building, how they're building. Set the scene for us. So, coming into Suno, when you joined, walk us through what the platform team looked like, walk us through what the platform team looks like today, and then take us to some of the challenges that you're likely to see in the platform team, and then we'll scale out the conversation.
yeah, cool. Sounds good. When I joined Suno last August, Suno has a lot of cutting edge researchers, and I'm proud to say that all the founders are very technical. It's a company that deeply rooted in technical expertise and research excellence, um, and it grows rapidly when I joined already. Um, so at the time, I think Suno definitely needs someone that can come in, can help them do some dirty work, basically. How can we make sure the service scale? How can we make sure that we're picking the right product or like picking the right cloud provider to make sure that we can continue this pace of growth? That's where I came in. So the first project I did at Suno was actually move our backend to onto AWS. So we were using like a smaller cloud providers that was not as scalable as AWS. And after that, a list of projects was generated to make sure that we can scale at a global space. Also, like make sure that we have enough runway um, so that we don't have to worry about our stuff always being disruptive every few weeks or months. So, and it's a tricky balance in that on that front, because on one side we want to grow really fast and we want to scale globally. On the other side, we want to avoid over engineering, and we don't need to plan for maybe 5 year or 10 years runway, because if the company continues to grow, then imagine more and more people will come in fixing these problems. So we try to balance between like fast growth and stability. Um, the platform team right now has 7 or 8 engineers, less than 10 engineers for sure. And we focus on different things, but we collaborate on a daily basis. Um, we work. Our work includes database, object storage scaling, cache scaling, logging, as I mentioned, and authentication, and some inference auto scaling work as well on the ML side. Um,
That's pretty sick. And what's that process been like of scaling over the last 15 months? Scaling in the right way as well, and scaling in an AI era. Like, talk to us about those two avenues, the right way and an AI era.
yeah, sounds good. I think there are multiple dimensions into it when we talk about scaling. One, our data continues to grow. When people generate songs, inevitably they will store like the song's title and lyrics, somewhere, and we don't want people to lose that. It would be a big disappointment if your generation is a song you really like, but you no longer can find lyrics. Um, so we try to make sure that part is scalable. Um, that includes, the sound streaming ability, database, um, and just all kinds of infrastructure things that we need to host. But also, I think on the other hand, we also try to scale the infra team um, to make sure that we always have enough engineers to do things and make sure that we hire capable people. I think as Suno, we are very lucky that on one side we hire some people that has very good background and experience, and everybody's experience is very different. It's very versatile. Like somebody worked on consumer app before, and somebody was maybe worked on like a CRM tool before. Somebody might be like deeply rooted in cloud provider or like was worked at like one of the bigger cloud provider before, and somebody might be like a database expertise. So I think the platform team is very versatile. So that's awesome. Also, like I feel very lucky and fortunate that almost every engineer in the company is very interested in solving infrastructure scaling problems. So whenever we have an incident or something goes wrong, people jump in Slack huddles or like people that joins the meeting and willing to solve the problem. The sheer number of engineers that are willing to listen to this and contribute to it always amazes me. So I think we have a lot of potential to grow, and we have a lot of work to do, and that's our current state.
Love it. That's really good context. The diversity in the skills within the team to set you up in the right way to actually think about, let's say, a strategy moving forwards. We spoke about this offline and we spoke about the interesting challenge of scaling globally in an AI era, especially as a consumer app, consumer product. That is a really interesting technical challenge to solve. What challenges have you seen? Do you see? How do you go about solving those?
That's a great question when you think about it. Um, One thing I've learned in the past year is everybody in the world listens to music, surprisingly. Another thing I learned is that human develops preference way before they develop almost anything else. So before you can speak a language or before you can almost do anything, you already have preference on what kind of music you want to hear. So that being said, you can expect our user base is very global. And so we want to serve the customer in Singapore, in Frankfurt, in New York, in South Africa, the same way. So we don't want people in Singapore to feel like, the app is laggy or it took them a long time to load the web page or the mobile app. Um, and we're still working towards a better and better solution, and there's still a lot of work to do. And then I think one thing that is really hard to measure is user experience in another region. Right? You can maybe do some proxy things. You can route a host there to as if that you were at that region. But ultimately, when you do this kind of testing, you are collecting some like singular user story kind of data that might not reflect the whole picture. Or you collect data such as end-to-end latency in another region or just full observability thing. The data might blind you a little bit. For instance, if you host your backend in a single region, then your backend latency will always be stable, but your front end will have global internet traffic latency and networking latency. And you want to make sure that you also measure that. Um, Another thing that's really hard to do is feature parity across the globe. And that is especially true for mobile people, because in naturally we would think that people in Europe, UK, or US, Canada, they might update software more frequently than people in other regions due to network bandwidth issue, due to like different user behavior reasons. So how can we make sure that people uses the app that's 10 versions old that's still having a smooth music experience? So we definitely take look we definitely look at all these issues very seriously, and to make sure that everybody gets a fair share of like enjoying the best music.
Yeah. And that's where monitoring, logging, all of the today's platform best practices need to be really on point, because when we spoke about this and some of the topics, someone in a different region to the US might be on a different internet service. They might have a different device, which means they're interacting with Suno in a different way. Therefore, their experience might be slightly different. So, monitoring, logging, and some of those platform best practices, they need to be on point, right?
Yeah, 100%. One thing I've learned throughout my career is that if your data does not match your user story, um, you should always take a deeper look at how you measure your data. So I think user story and user interview and user experience is very important. One of the example is, you might see your app latency is okay, but if you fly to Singapore and you open your app, it takes 15 seconds to load. That means you're definitely measuring something wrong. So that's how I look at it. And often, especially for a company that's still at early stage like us, these things are often overlooked, and we try to not overlook it and pay a lot of attention to it. Also, couple really high speed product growth, and to make sure that we don't interrupt with product roadmap.
Yeah. And how do you do that? That's a great point. And we were talking about this forward deployed mindset of really understanding the experience of your customer and how they use your product. Someone using Suno in Singapore, maybe it does take 15 seconds to load their app. How do you stress test some of these data points, especially in a AI global era where it is just moving so fast?
Yeah, that that is a great question. I think two directions that we do. One, we rely on experience. Um, a lot of us had experience of hosting global software. So whatever we can think of, we do that. Another way is that we have a very strong community. So we have a really active Discord channel, and we have a really active Reddit channel, and we take a really deep look into user users like critical comment about like latency, or like the app is not working and all that. Even in the early stage of Suno, I believe, when the monitoring was not there, we didn't really establish almost anything. We kind of just rely on the user at one point to tell us, hey, something's wrong. You gotta fix this. So I think that early stage partnership with the user was very special, because as a lot of company grows, they sort of forcefully or voluntarily leave that behind. And we as a company, we build a very strong relationship with our user. I think that's very special.
Interesting. I think that's a really, really valid point that I think people can talk to. You know, Suno reminds me very much of Lovable, who we've had on the show in its novel approach to create something with prompting and being very close to a support network, your customers in a Discord, Reddit way is vitally important to improve. So it's just very interesting to see how that dynamic is now really, really shaping up for a lot of companies of today.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we love to see that, and I think inevitably that will be the future of all of AI or agentic solutions in general. Suno is not intrinsically a agentic thing, but a lot of for instance, I see company that's maybe revolutionized like the dating industry, revolutionizing like the pharmaceutical industry, like whatever you do that you try to create a new flow or changing the existing industry's paradigm, um, you have to do this because the shift is um, because of the AI boost, people almost went from skill based innovation to intention based innovation. You can sort of learn everything you want to learn today just by checking with maybe talk to ChatGPT or Cloud Code. It will give you a study plan and you iterate on it. Maybe not like scientific things. Maybe like math and physics will require a little bit of in-class things. But pure engineering and operational things, the feedback loop is so fast, and you have a personalized way to get a hold of almost anything. So that definitely sparks a lot of innovation. So how can you make yourself differentiate? I think you, laser focus on your customer is the only way that you differentiate yourself outside of whatever model or like cutting edge technology that you come up with.
Interesting. Okay. And it kind of goes back to that point of the data points, making sure that you're measuring the right data of how your users are absorbing Suno.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. On the infra and platform side, we definitely take a very close look at that for sure.
Love it. What are not the ways to scale in, if you want the buzzword, in an AI era? At the moment, we've talked about some great ways to scale a product and platform team. What are not the ways in your beliefs?
I think um, I think you need to rethink your product development cycle and just forget all about the traditional development style. That is especially true for infra and because throughout my career, I've learned that you don't really know what you want to build until you build it. So the pitfall of previous generation of company, previous generation, I mean like before maybe 2023 or 2022, where ChatGPT kind of exploded. So before that time, building what you want to imagine, what you imagine is like a luxury. Right now, prototyping things and vibe coding, what you thought about, is basically what you can do on a daily basis. And we definitely see more hackathon extension project or like prototype project that converts to um, production product. the the consequence of that is you don't want to like do the resource allocation, or you don't want to like say, hey, these three people it's allocated to that, or like product is working on that, because you don't want to arrogantly believe that something will success just by your conventional wisdom or experience. You have to let the user decide it, and that's easier than ever um, to be accomplished. Also, like on the infra side, I think especially over engineering and over scaling is something that happens a lot before, because the previous platform discussion often goes to like, what if your user number exceeds XYZ? Um, because redesigning something is really hard. I think right now redesigning something is also still very hard. Like for instance, your database is not like an overnight issue. If you want to get onto like Kubernetes hosting, that's also like not something that you can solve overnight. But for the most part, a lot of things you develop a lot faster. So I think platform team and infra team should laser focus on the product needs, and product should focus on how can we test and increase the feedback frequency versus like engineer a roadmap and try to make it work.
That's a really interesting insight. Where are where are some of the other technical challenges that sit inside the business away from platform and infra that you've got visibility on? You know, we're talking about product people. I know you've got researchers in the business. Like, give us a general overview of what the technical challenges, even product challenges that you were just describing, look like at Suno.
Yeah. Um, I think um, right now the biggest challenge is everybody is trying to adapt to a new role because research engineer now becomes and research scientist now also is part of engineers, and they also make product decisions. Software engineer is basically data engineer sometime. You'll also like run a lot of Snowflake queries to get to understand the user data, and you want to understand what the capability of the model in Suno's case as well to make sure that we enhance our competitive advantage. So the development cycle is more collaborative than ever, but in some cases also like more chaotic than ever because like you don't really rely on anyone's specialty or title to make decisions. What I see internally is a very close collaboration between engineers, product, and research, and everybody has to say as to whether a new product is possible or are we capable of developing that, plus like what the user would think and how long the development cycle is, um, everything. Um, Ultimately, we make a decision to based on our judgment and instinct and some data. Sometimes we look more closely to the data. Sometimes we look a little bit less closely to the data. Um, so that together is a whole new challenge internally when we develop product, and that basically the changing of direction happens almost on a daily basis. And I have to emphasize that 5 years ago, it's a bad thing. So if you see like a product changes direction every day, that's usually bad. But right now, you sort of have to have that iteration loop. And sometimes it can be frustrating, but it's necessary because we are developing a totally new creation and editing cycle for music.
Was that a bit of a mindset shift for you to like go up a couple of gears in terms of speed, in terms of probably how you think, how you work, how you collaborate, and almost change some of your beliefs that you had from a couple of years ago? Is that tough?
Um, I think it's very exciting. I grew up um, as some sort of an introvert, so but I'm very curious. I always want to ask questions. I want to understand like how did they do this? How do we do that? What makes a successful product work? And what makes a good platform work? So if you look at if you look at a lot of the bigger companies, one of the core competitive advantage they have is they have a very strong tooling platform so that they allow their developer to write code on top of it with peace of mind. So it's really hard for one developer's bad commit to bring down the whole service, and they spent years to develop that. How did how did they came up with all this stuff? So I always have a question of that. Now I sort of have a way to just ask AI to get a hold of these answers and really, really just put it into practice and at a startup company. So I think that's a luxury that Suno right now have. That's very exciting. So I view it as a benefit. I never feel like overwhelming about it. But one thing I have to stress is it becomes a little bit stressful if when you have to self go into the nitty gritty. instead of let AI handle either your code, your tooling, or your plan. Because sometimes the last mile becomes more stressful than before. Um, your product development cycle before, when you reach 80 or 90%, you often have really good test coverage. You have well-defined interface, and you know what's missing. Because before, what happens is that engineers will create a lot of skeleton files and maybe throw not implemented exception in a lot of functions, and they distributed the work. They let other engineers maybe fill in those functions, or you are in charge of this tool, you in charge of that, create, get, delete, update API, and through that, your project gets finished. Right now, a lot of this is replaced by AI. So if you don't have to look at anything, that's awesome. But as soon as you have to look at it, you almost have to restudy the stuff that is a very mature product but needs a little tweaking. So that makes the last mile really, really stressful. That's the sometimes the overwhelming part of it.
Interesting. And we were speaking about AI tools not long ago. There's a lot that's out there in the market at the moment. There's obviously, been a splash at reInvent, and a lot of people are excited about what they're building, especially in the platform and SRE space. So I guess not necessarily what's wrong with those, but how might AI, these platforms, these tools change platform over the next 12 months if they do?
That's a great question. So this time when I went to reInvent, I talked with a lot of AI companies, and I hear the word agent probably 200 times every hour. So it's definitely I will not even say a trending topic. AI is almost the only topic that we are talking about this year. And I see like two group of companies. One is they have a really strong idea and a product pitch, um, but they don't have the expertise to do infra hosting or scaling their platform. And maybe it's GPU scaling, maybe it's your Elastic Search cluster or like vector database, maybe it's your object storage. They simply haven't yet have the bandwidth to hire those people. Another group of people is like really hardcore engineers that they try to be this new middle layer player in the future, and they are very, very professional at hosting platform and maybe run things for you. So they want to become the next era of maybe AWS or Google Cloud or Azure in the GPU end. So reInvent this year almost is like a sales event or like a networking event where these two group of companies continuously talking to each other to bridge this gap. Um, as I mentioned that my first job was at Bloomberg, I vividly remember when I read the Bloomberg history, Michael Bloomberg himself delivered the first Bloomberg terminal to the customer, if I remember correctly. So right now, in the AI land, it almost feel the same. A forward deploy engineer or the engineer that comes to onsite and sets stuff up for you is more valuable than the past 20 years. It took about like 20, 30, 40 years for us to standardize the CPU land, the serverless, the Lambda, or the container space. I think eventually GPU space or like AI space will also be standardized like that. So that means right now this is a huge opportunity for companies to really think about how they can power their platform, how they can make their platform more efficient, what they should offshore to a vendor, and what they should self-host in-house. So I think as a consumer app infra engineer, it's my job to work with other people also to make sure that we make the right decisions when it comes to like what we're going to develop, how can we move fast, how can we not sacrificing availability. So it's a very interesting time for sure.
Totally. It is a really, really interesting time. Now, I agree with your notion on for deployed engineers. It is vitally important that I think people at the coalface now understanding how customers are actually using, interacting with their product, service, piece of hardware. It is so, so important, in my opinion. I want to ask and understand whereabouts your growth might be coming from over the next 12 months. We've spoken about a couple of things: globalization, localization, hiring, and there's topics in there around software capital. So take it away, but I want to try and understand where Suno are going over the next 12 months.
Suno's goal, I think, in my view, this is my personal view, is to try to become the best music creation tool on the planet. And I think a lot of people in the company also share that view. If you don't believe that, it's really hard to work at a startup, honestly. Um, so with that, I think we need to really enhance our competitive advantage, which is our model music generation ability. Um, I don't think a lot of people know how powerful Suno is today. We want more people to get a touch of it and make music the main theme as part of their daily life. Because music is an interesting thing. It's almost like polarized. Like some family, like if you go to a family party or something, they might make music the main theme of their Christmas Eve. Someone might lead a piano concert or self-host like a karaoke session. And some family might feel like, oh, this is not our thing yet. But I think Suno makes everybody able to create music or enjoy this creative process. So you definitely feel like you really like participated and involved in this journey. So I think I want more people to feel what I feel when I first touched Suno. So that's one. I think the second part is build a more versatile feature base and explore like different product angle. I think music is awesome, not just create, but also like we want people to listen. We want people to interact with music and really use Suno as a platform for music versus a tool. So try to do that like product to platform transition. I think we already have a very strong user base that we are already a good platform for a lot of enthusiastic users and stuff. But we really want to look at it very closely next year. And that means on the platform side, we have to scale rapidly next year to make sure that when people comes into the platform, it's a really good experience. Imagine that you have 99% uptime. It means like 1% of the time when people first time goes into the platform, they will not see the website open. Or if they create or like generate, it will fail. So that is a horrible experience that we try to avoid. So there's a whole list of work needs to be done to accomplish this. But I'm very excited to. I'm very looking forward to next year to see what's going to happen and where it leads us.
Good.
Yeah.
I've really felt the passion throughout speaking to you, getting to know you. I saw the announcement. I reached out. You responded straight away, permission, and we got this done like really, really quite quickly. And I felt the energy from you and the team in terms of what you're building. And like what I glean from what you've just said, it's really going to be about focusing on the product, the user experience, expanding the feature set, and understanding or ensuring that people using Suno have a really great time a lot of the time or increase that. So
Yeah.
I love that. And I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having us. Yeah. I really appreciate you reaching out, and I think raising money comes to with like great responsibility. On one side, we're really passionate about music. On the other side, I think we really want to make sure that Suno achieves our dreams. Really, I think it's really really a dream come true for a lot of people like me. So I appreciate
I
it.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, if I even speak on behalf of Suno, I've seen the bar of people that you're able to attract to be phenomenal. If you are a researcher, product person, platform infra person, you should go and talk to these guys and girls because they're doing some really, really incredible stuff. And I think the numbers speak for itself in terms of money raised, valuation in a relatively short period of time. And that's credit to all of you and the team.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. We are growing rapidly. If you are passionate about music and if you are interested in shaping platform future or product future, or you just really, really interested in music, we have general roles that you can apply and we can talk to see like where it fits you. Um, I love collaborating with colleagues and engineers and everybody with different background. It's really fun. So
Love it. Ryder, you've been a legend. Suno, thank you. For people listening, of course, it goes without saying, likes, shares, subscribership, all of that good stuff is really, really useful and wanted to keep this little ecosystem buzzing around. Again, Suno, Ryder, massive thank you. And it's bye for now from us. Till next time.
thank you. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Enginears is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Enginears.io. It's no underscore. We've also got a website which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.